we keep hearing this narrative that police officers are the imposers of a racist system. And they will point to videos of police officers killing black people as evidence for this narrative. But there are plenty of videos of white people being shot and killed by the police. So I guess this is racism against white people. Well, we can talk to the professors, and the professors will tell you that there are plenty of videos of black folk being shot. And if you look at footage of the police doing what they do on the streets, it is evidence of the fact that there is systemic racism and that there is a system of white privilege under the power structures which are completely governed by the system of whiteness as is according to critical race theory. So let's look at some police videos to demonstrate this racism, I guess. Let's talk to the professor. All right, everyone. So this is the first video that we will be watching as part of our demonstration as to how racist the police system is as per the racial and systemically racist power structures that rule the countries because of the powers that be. We all know who. And so this is the first video, so let's get right to it.
Kenneth, what did you throw in the back of the other truck that was...
So he is asking this person, what did you throw into the other truck? Now, he is giving this man the opportunity to explain himself. This is a privilege that would not be given to this man if he was black. But because he is obviously Caucasian, he is given the privilege to explain himself. Obvious racism right here, everyone. This is racism right here. You're seeing it, plain view, plain in sight. Let's move on.
Well, they're saying that you took something out of your truck, threw it in the back of another truck, and then that truck left.
I never did that.
Never did that?
I swear to God.
Okay. You want to do a field sobriety test for me?
Now, he asks him if he wants to take a sobriety test, meaning a test that would measure the amount of alcohol in his blood. Now, again, this question was not given to Rayshard Brooks. He was made to take a sobriety test, and they found the level of alcohol in his blood to be very high before they shot him, as if alcoholism all of a sudden is a crime worthy of death in this country, which really just goes to show you how genocidal this country is towards black people, because police officers have been hunting black men down and women down, going all the way back to the Mayflower. But because this man is white, they say, do you want to take a sobriety test? Obvious racism right here. You're seeing it plain in view, plain sight, undeniable evidence, empirical evidence of racism. Let's move on, everyone.
Huh? You're not? Okay. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
What?
Huh?
The champ light?
I'm sorry, what?
What light did you say to turn on?
I didn't say turn off any light. I said, are you willing to do a field sobriety test?
I said no.
And I said, turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Why?
Now, if this man was black, they would have just shot him. We all know this to be true, everyone. Let's continue watching.
Because you're under arrest for DUI.
For what?
For what?
Yeah.
Because I think you're impaired.
I'm not impaired, dog. I'm just driving home from work.
Okay, then why don't you do a field sobriety test?
I'm not doing it.
Huh?
Because I don't need to.
You don't need to.
I don't need to.
All right, everyone. So I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to go back and forth between my real voice and the professor voice just to keep this thing humorous. But I'm not going to be talking like this for the entirety of this video. So, because I do want to give some serious commentary to these videos. So let's go on.
You're leaning
Now,
out.
notice, I just want to point something out, and you guys have already seen this. You guys already noticed this. This guy is acting stupid. Now, I have been spending hours for the last several days just watching these videos. And one thing that I notice is that all these criminals act stupid. They all act stupid, and they never comply. No matter how reasonable the officer is, they never comply. And the narrative that the left-wing fanatics want to push on us is that cops are unreasonable, cops don't like reasoning with people, cops don't treat citizens like human beings. That's another one. But in looking at all these cop videos, I find officers to be very, very, very reasonable. So let's just go on.
On your truck. You don't need to.
I mean,
You're absolutely. You don't need to. You're absolutely right. You do not.
You're leaning on.
You do not need to.
Okay.
So turn around. Put your hands behind your back.
No.
Okay.
So he runs away. He starts walking away, actually.
Okay.
So again, this is part of white privilege right here, guys. He has the privilege to run. Black folk don't have the privilege to run. Racism right here, guys. This is racism. Now look at what he does. He goes to a bush and he pulls out a pistol. Pulls out a pistol. Cop takes cover. Guy starts firing at the officer. Officer takes aim, and there's another officer that's a short distance away on the other side. And this officer takes aim and kills the guy. And this guy died from the gunshots. And yeah, here is a white guy getting shot by the police. I mean, really, it goes to show you, these cops don't care what color you are. Cops don't care what race you are. What they care about is, are you dangerous or not? Do you pose a threat to their lives? That's what officers care about. If you are black and you are not a threat, cops aren't going to care. They're not going to care. This guy's white. This guy was white. And he was killed by the cops. Why? Because he posed a threat. Was not compliant. Was very arrogant. Pretending to be stupid. Acting dumb. And you can see in his eyes, when he starts talking, you can see that he's thinking about doing something else other than what the cop is asking from him. The cop is asking him to turn around so that he could slap the handcuffs on him. But you can see it in his eyes, you can see it in his demeanor, you can see it in his mannerisms, that he has completely different intentions. So let's go on to another video just to show you how racist the cops are. Here's a video. White guy. This is in Kentucky. Cop stops him. And the cop is talking to him. And this guy is acting very cool, acting very, I'm an old man. Just listen to him talk for a bit, and I'll fast forward it because this video is quite long. Well, 10 minutes.
No good.
So
I got you.
he's pretending to be, just an old man. I'm just an old man. I'm trying to get home, officer. Just trying to get home. And look at what happens. Look at what happened. And the cop doesn't trust him. That's the thing. Cop doesn't trust him. Now, here's a guy who is white. The officer stops him. The officer is also white. Officer stops him. And the officer doesn't say, oh, you're a white guy. You must be innocent. There's no way you could be committing crimes because, you're white. White people don't commit crimes. And that's not what happens. The officer does not trust him. And the officer knows that he is up to no good just based on his mannerisms. So let's listen to what the officer says.
Okay. You know what I do for a living, man? I catch drug dealers and drug smugglers. Okay?
So he says, do you know what I do for a living? I catch drug dealers and drug smugglers. In other words, I know you are up to no good.
That's what I do for a living. Okay?
Racism right here, guys. This is just, racism.
Okay. And I work at K9, okay? So normally what happens is, I'm not saying you didn't, and I'm not saying you did anything wrong, okay? But a lot of your mannerisms and gestures while you've been sitting here talking to me, okay, I'm trained to read people, okay?
So he's not judging this guy, or he's not assessing this guy based on his skin color. He is assessing this guy, he is observing this guy, and he finds him suspicious because of his mannerisms, because of his demeanor, because of the fact that he's acting very, very nervous in front of a police officer. This guy's trying to be cool, but it's not really showing all the way. And look at what happens. Officer asks him to step out of the vehicle.
Just step right back here for me, my man.
I can't.
What's that?
I can't.
Boom. Pulls out a pistol.
Get back! Get back!
Officer takes cover and proceeds to return fire at this guy, or to shoot this guy.
Those 5 shots fired. Stay in the squat.
Racism right here, guys. I think the story has yeah, this guy died. His name was has his name. His last name was Lockaby. I can't find his first name here, but it's somewhere here. But yeah, Randall Lockaby. That's his name. Okay, Randall Lockaby. Racism right here, guys. It's racism. This is systematic racism. It's quite obvious. Let's look at another video. Here's another video. This is racism right here, everyone. Systemic oppression from the power structures that be set up in the 17th century when the Puritans got out of the Mayflower to oppress black folk. Let's watch some of this. Let's look at some of this racism right here, guys. Racism. Absolute racism. Let's look at this video. Now, this is a white person that they are investigating. If this was a black person, they would have busted open the door. They would have not knocked on the door. A black man or a black woman would not have been given this sort of courtesy. Bam! This woman comes out looking like the demon-possessed chick from The Exorcist. Comes out with a knife. Stabs the female officer. Drops the knife, looking like a zombie. Picks the knife back up. Officer shoots her. So, the criminal here is not black. Fires 2 rounds at her. Fires 2 rounds at her. Not black. But I guess this is racism. Remember they were complaining about that story? What was it? They were complaining about a story, and I think it was in Pennsylvania. It was in Pennsylvania. What was it? Hold on a second here. What was it? It was in Pennsylvania. Officer shot man with knife. Yeah, hold on. Lancaster police. Pretty sure this was it. Yeah, they were protesting about this. All these lunatics were protesting this story. Knife-wielding man. Yeah, this was it. Yup, this was the story. And they were saying that it was racism. And there were people protesting in the streets, and they were looting. And they were saying that it was racism and all this crap. But here's the same type of situation, and the guy was charging after him with a knife. Here's the same situation, but it's a white woman that's running after the officer with a knife. So is this like white on white racism, or how does this work? Like how can they spin this? So male officer comes over. You have the lady from The Exorcist.
Get on the ground! Get away from that knife!
He kills her. And this information has the full story, etc. Yeah, I think they killed this. I'm pretty sure she died. Yeah, pronounced deceased. Yeah, they killed her. But they didn't hesitate. Guy didn't hesitate to kill this woman. But again, racism. This is racism right here, guys. In plain sight. Let's look at another story here. Okay, so this is in Baltimore. So here's a...
The officer
Okay, so here's a real case of racism because you can see right here, black woman being harassed by the police just because of the color of her skin. Let's watch, everyone. Let's watch this racism right here, all right?
His weapon is the driver, closing the door.
She can't even get back into her car. She don't even have the privilege to get back in her car, man. This is America, or should I say America KKK, yeah?
And we might need to have a unit here, sing or spin on us. Baltimore and yeah.
Don't touch me.
You're not going to the car.
So black R&B music, black soul music is playing in the background. We have a black officer in the back. We have a black woman being harassed by a white police officer. What we have right here, everyone, is a microcosm, or should I say, an ideological incarnation of what critical race theory has pointed out to, which is the power structures which innately are systemically racist against black, brown, and minority folks. Because we have black soul music, which all American people love, which has been misappropriated or really stolen from white people, and white people they enjoy listening to that music. But at the same time, in the midst of all this, we have a police system which is racist, so we can see really a microcosm of the brokenness of American society. Let's move on, please.
I feel threatened. I feel attacked. I feel attacked. I feel attacked. I feel attacked.
Now, notice the use of the female body as a way to express that danger is nearby, or a way to express that her life is under danger. This is something that really emanates from an African tradition. It goes all the way back to Africa, where women bang the bongo drums to warn neighboring tribes about an enemy tribe coming over, or about British soldiers coming over, because when the British were trying to invade and annihilate the Zulu nation, Zulu women would bang on the bongo drums to show the others, or to let the neighboring tribes know white man is coming with their guns. Get your spears and your bows and arrows ready. So the use of the female body, because what happened was the British actually outlawed the bongo drums, because the bongo drums was their main way of communication. So the African woman began to use their own bodies as instruments of alarm systems. So this was actually a part of an innate natural alarming system that the Zulu nation contrived and came up with as a means to communication. This is still being used by the African woman today, but we do not understand the history of its manifestation, but it's still innately within us. Let's move on, please. Now, her not wanting to be touched, this is something that goes all the way back to the plantation days, when the slave master had all the right to touch the slave in any way, shape, or form at any time that he wanted. And the fact that she is saying, "Don't touch me," that again is the result of trauma that has lasted for generations, and which is a result of slavery, which has impacted the intellectual capacities and also the intellectual formations of the black intellect and the black genius, and also the black logos. But it's something that is within us, but it emanates from trauma. This is why mental health professionals are so important, as opposed to using police officers when dealing with crime on the streets.
Text me. If you don't violate my rights, I'm not going to violate yours.
Hit me with your car.
Because you were in the way.
It's blocked.
You're stupid. Don't talk to me.
The officer makes a determination to take the driver into custody. You can see she's
So they touched her, so they violated that African oath of not touching. Because in African civilization, the woman was sacred. The woman is God in the African intellect. And so because of that maternal system, when the officer touched the woman, that was an infraction that was put upon her. and she, as a natural instinct, fought back.
Strikes the officer.
So she strikes the officer in the Zulu form.
Strikes it a second time, causing her backup officer, Officer Love, to then...
Now the officer hits her. Now the officer is black, as you can see. The officer who hit her is black. This again is a form of trauma.
Her backup officer, Officer Love, to then...
The fact that a black officer struck her is not really surprising. What's going on with this brother is also a form of trauma, but in this case, we are speaking in the context of Stockholm Syndrome. His trauma is there, and it's manifesting itself in a way that indicates that his ancestors were most likely the slaves that lived in the slave master's home. So they was friends with the slave master, and they was there to impose the law of the slave master. That's why we have black cops. The only reason why we have black officers is because of trauma. That's just trauma. Because their ancestors were those who were defending the master. So that's what's going on right here.
Struck the driver.
All right, so let's go to something else. Again, we have another form of racism right here. This is a black man who was tased and shot by police officers because of racism. Racism, okay?
What? What's the real gun? What are you talking about? Put down the bottle, put down the lock. What's the real gun?
So what's a real blunt? The officer does not understand what this man is saying because the officer is not fluent in Ebonics. And I think that one of the a great step to take in the reformation of the police system of the United States is to have every single officer take mandatory classes, at least 6 months, of courses on how to speak Ebonics. That way they would be able to communicate with the people on the streets.
Put down the bottle, put down the lock. No! What are you doing? So you talk to me like a real man? What's a real
So he wants to be spoken to like a real man because obviously the officer is not treating him as if he's a human being. So let's fast forward because the video is kind of lengthy.
Hey,
So he got a taser.
put the bottle down. You know Get down.
So he used the taser, and the officer is doing the right thing right here, using the taser. But this is where the officers make a mistake right here. So they use the taser, which is important. But let's move on and let's see the mistake that the officer makes.
Get down on the ground.
He tells him to get on the ground, which is the mistake he makes because in the African intellect, to get on the ground means to be defeated. So you cannot use that kind of language when dealing with these people. That's why it's so important that officers be educated in the language of Ebonics, which apparently this officer is not fluent in. So let's move on. So this is where the officers make a mistake. The officer initially made the correct decision by using the taser because it's the humane way to go, but look at what happened. So he shot him, you see. So the taser was used, that was good, but then he shoots the man. Racism. It's racism. Now this goes back to, I'm going to speak in my real voice here. This goes back to all that nonsense that we keep hearing about when they say, well, why didn't he use a taser? Why didn't he use a taser? We heard this with the whole Ma'Khia Bryant story. Tasers don't always work. And when you have a guy who is just pumped up on adrenaline or pumped up on meth, tasers do not work. And in many cases, officers have to use lethal force because tasers don't work. The officer here used the taser. It didn't work. Eventually, he had to escalate the situation to lethal force. Well, not escalate, but he eventually had to resort to lethal force. So here's a case of a white man being approached by the police. So they go to the house. Hey,
I think if we make into this from the side, we'll have a better view of him.
So they're looking at the house.
I'm guessing this
So they start approaching the door.
Hey, no, not
Guy comes out with a knife. Now, this is a white guy, by the way. White man. And they kill him. Again, we've had stories of black guys charging at officers with knives, and they get killed. We have a case right here of a white guy doing the same thing and getting killed. Again, I guess this is racism. Here's another story. Let's look at this one.
She's running.
So, white woman is shooting at the officers. There she is. Wait, he's not going to run over this woman, is he? I mean, that would be against white privilege. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Officer kills this woman by running over her. Now, she opened fire on the officers, and the officer responded to that threat by using his weapon, his vehicle as a weapon. Again, is this racist? Is this racism, everyone? I guess this is racism. I guess this is racism. I guess this is racism, everyone. Anyway.